Say hello. Go on. Don't just look at me. There you go, that's our audience. Guys and girls, we've got a very, very, very important rant tonight. And this rant has been inspired by a coaching conversation I had with a client who is motivated, is hungry, has a very compelling why, is actually a pretty good salesperson, and hey Charlie's brothers, hey Amit, there's every reason why this person should succeed. His boss calls him lazy. He always says the right stuff. By the way, Condemuris, thank you for introducing me to Alex. Condemuris owns Bar Italia, so if you want to taste the best gelato or have a fantastic penne arrabbiata, or the pizzas are incredible. Like, it's not known for pizzas, but the pizzas are incredible. Bar Italia. And I like it. They're very strict on their social distancing. That's a good thing. But it's the classic case of the girl or guy who looks the part, says the right stuff, is intelligent, has got a decent read the play ability, has got a compelling why, sets goals, but somewhere along the line it gets screwed up. Some people actually say it's laziness. Some people just say that, they've got no need to succeed because the consequences is that they can get by or that they don't have clarity. But I'm going to dispute that, everyone, today. I'm going to dispute that. And I'm going to actually tell you that for me in my own life, and the research validates it, This is not me just saying it. This is evidence-based, which means it's not some like spruiker that's saying something without any substance. Do you understand? Okay. So what it is, by the way, yes, a great win to the West Tigers. No, this is not Vlad's brother. I got asked that by Lisa. You're not Vlad's brother. What nationality are you? What nationality are you? I'll take that as a comment. That's what the guy on the ABC Late Line used to say. Anyway, so let's just get on with the rant. So I'm in a mental cul-de-sac and I can't get out. Where was I? I was about to say something really important. And what it was about was that, look, in my own life, what I'm about to say to you, it's made a big difference. Because I also had goals driven down my neck for years. I mean, I was the sort of guy that would just set goals January 1 all the time, right? January 1. And at some point, sometimes in the first month, I would sort of drop out, and every intention that was set on January the 1 had fizzled out, right? And I then began to study a book called Change Anything, and that to me was a big turning point in my life. I don't talk about that book much for some reason. I've forgotten about it. But, I started reading a book, and then I started reading the research after I read the book on why is it that most people actually fail in life. And fundamentally, it's this. They have willpower as their strategy. And what actually happens is when you've got willpower as your strategy, you might actually have a strong will when you actually start off. But then what actually happens is this. Something gets in the way, life gets in the way, a distraction, a vulnerability. And I've got to say to you, what actually happens is that energy that you had when you set up that goal has sort of just dissipated and things have got in the way. So fundamentally, if willpower was in fact the answer to success, you would, of course, be totally ripped. You would actually be worth 100 million. You would have incredible relationships in family and in life, and life would be absolutely fantastic. And Anna, I've got to say to you, look, I know a lot of people that have got a great attitude, but what happens is that it ain't enough. It ain't enough. You actually need more than that. What you actually need is what I'm going to talk about today, and that is you need to actually have an environment that is bigger than your willpower. And I'm going to share with you that, for instance, right now, one of the reasons that a lot of Victorian agents, particularly those in Melbourne in stage 4, are actually struggling is that they've got an environment that actually is not suited to them being super productive and successful. I mean, if you are living in a, say, 2-bedroom unit and you've got 2 kids, you can actually see how challenging that would be to actually be productive at home. And as far as I'm concerned, you must always have 2 environments in your life. One for high work and one for recovery. You need to have one for high stress and one for recovery. And I'm going to tell you that for me today, it's all about learning the art of balancing pure play with pure work. And I've got to say to you, research, in fact, neuroscientists have studied that only 16% of mental breakthroughs that people have happen during the workspace because it doesn't cultivate creativity and the ability to think on blank canvas in your brain. So today, guys and girls, I'm going to spend a lot of time talking to you about a hack that I can tell you it can transform your life personally and your business life. So I'm going to say to you, the first tip I'm going to give you is occasionally, Alex, what you need to do is to go off to an unfamiliar environment, an environment where you are taken away. Like in the ideal world, it would be good to travel to an adventurous place. It would be good to go overseas. Of course, that's not an option now, and it's not an option. Terry is asking, is Alex single? Yes, he is. Alex is single. Are you looking for a relationship? No. Friends with benefits. That term never existed when I was growing up. Did you know that? That term never existed, friends with benefits. What the hell is that? Friends with benefits. So I've got to say to you, gang, that what you want to do is to create, like this, going out to an unfamiliar environment. It could easily as be as you driving to Centennial Park or to Bondi Beach, parking your car and staring at the water in your car. It could easily be as that. It could easily be as me sort of just driving to, Terrigal, right? What you want to do is to go to an unfamiliar environment and pull out a journal and start writing. Because what you want to do is you want to start removing some of the dead weight from your life. And I've got to say to you, that as I go through this rant today, which I plan to give you at least 5 nuggets that are going to have a profound impact on execution, not on ideation, on execution, that what you've got to do, and particularly for those of you that are in lockdown environments, you've got an opportunity to, rewrite your agreement with reality and to strip out some of the fat in your life. And I'm going to talk about your opportunity. Example, your database. Your database is a classic example. This database that you hardly ever spend any time on. You've got time to go off, strip the fat and make it muscly. There's an example of what I'm talking about. And I'm also going to tell you that as I'm going through this rant today, I'm going to share with you What I mean by creating an environment to succeed, here's an example. I had a client of mine who said that they had a problem and that they were obsessed with eating chocolates, right? Eating chocolates. And their problem was they would exercise, they would eat really, really well all in the day, and then at night time they would snack on Cadbury, dairy, fruit and nut chocolate bars. And what that would do is give them like about 800 calories, right? 800 calories in like half an hour. And I just said, hey, why don't you create an environment for success, right? Why don't you simply, think about it. If you don't want to slip, don't hang around slippery spots. So what does that mean? Set yourself up for an environment that supports you reaching your goals. Does Cadbury dairy milk, fruit and nuts sitting in your fridge support your goal? No, she said. I said, well, it's very simple. We must eliminate that chocolate from the fridge and we must replace it with an option that is better for you. So when it's 9:45 at night and you go for that habitual path, you go to the fridge, what actually happens is the chocolate's not there and you replace that maybe with some, high protein, low sugar carbs, snacks. Even give it a chocolate taste, brownie, or as Terry Lee says, celery, or whatever. The point I'm saying is this. What smart people do is that they actually plan for their vulnerabilities before the vulnerability sets in. Michael says Scotch. So, and I've just got to say to you, what you want to do is to succeed in life, you've got to create an environment where you actually eliminate friction on the things you want to do and you actually put in friction on the things that you don't want to do. Does that make sense? And I've got to say to you, if you're going to use willpower, right, you're going to find that you're just going to have this up-down thing. Let me give you a couple of other examples of creating an environment for success. Even those of you that are in Melbourne or even not in Melbourne, why wouldn't you actually just say, I will go and sit in my car to make my phone calls? And that strategy can actually work for a lot of people that have an environment at their office where that they can't actually focus on a phone call because they've got too many people that are taking their attention. There might be noise, there might be colleagues coming over saying, let's go get a cup of coffee. And what you're doing is you're setting yourself up for failure there and then. Another example of setting yourself up for failure is another strategy that can help you to stop yourself setting up from failure is that you actually create events that sort of modify your behavior. Let me give you an example of mine. Was many years ago when I was working at News Corp, Friday afternoons was drinks day. Now my problem was that I ran an auction business on Saturday, so I had to be working on Saturday. And being hungover and having a big night out on a Friday is not the right thing that you should be doing if you're a real estate auctioneer. So what I used to do is be very vulnerable. You see, if I have a couple of glasses of red, I don't want to leave the bar or the restaurant or the pub that I'm at. I want to stay and I want to enjoy the company and I want to enjoy the vibe. But I also know that it ain't a great strategy because 2 glasses of red becomes 5 glasses of red that might actually end up becoming, a few scotches or gins or vodkas after that. And that is not a great thing at 10:30 at night on a Friday night when you realize, shit, we got a long 24 hours to go through tomorrow, right? So what I used to do is play a smart game. I'd create an environment where I'd say to my daughter, listen, I'll be picking you up tonight, the Friday night, at 7 o'clock from tennis at Hawthorn. I'll pick you up. Which meant that no matter what bar I was at, I had an obligation to pick up my daughter because no one else was going to. That is an example of creating an environment for success. Other examples of creating an environment for success is actually having a list of the people that you're going to call in a prospecting session. You see, there's a rule in sales called the golden hours is the time you call, and the platinum hours is the time you work out who you're going to call. And if you don't spend time in the platinum hours, what you're doing is creating an environment to fail, because then when you go in to make your phone calls, you're confused as you don't know who to call. So you sit there and you actually just stare at your computer or stare at your phone, and you start having what I call paralysis by over-analysis. Hi Sanjay, hi to everyone. Hi Diana. So the point I'm making here is what you've got to start doing. And trust me, positive thinking can actually screw you in success. And I'll tell you why. Because when you're focused on positive thinking, you're not actually planning for any of the vulnerabilities that might show up, because you're totally blinkered, right? You're totally myopic about it. And then what actually happens is an event happens, a distraction happens, and you haven't allowed for it, and you're screwed because you don't have an environment that took that into account. I hope you're really processing what I'm saying here, because for many of you that are on right here, right now, you're not lazy. It's not like you're not goal addicted, and it's not like you don't have a why. I just think that you haven't set yourself up for success in life and business. And some small changes to designing an environment which is going to make you succeed, whether it's in the gym. Like, I'll give you an example. So let me give you an example with me. So I've now done 6 sessions of Bikram yoga. And I've got to say to you that what they've got there is a forcing function. Write that word down, a forcing function. A forcing function is that something is forced upon you, which means that you have no choice but to continue. And in Bikram yoga at 5 Doc, where I go, I have to say to you, you simply cannot walk out of the class. You cannot walk out of the class. So it is not allowed. And they don't let anyone, because what they say is if you go out, you're giving permission for everyone else to go out. So it's not allowed. So there's an example to me of a forcing function where it forces people to commit, right? And another example that I have on a forcing function is if anyone's doing one-on-one coaching with me, they know that at the start of the call that they have with me, all I go over is the goal for the week. And for many people, that forcing function, the goal of the week, forces that person to actually do the work, right? Do the work. I've also got to tell you that, I'm just thinking to myself, write this down. Implementation intention. Write that down. And implementation intention is basically putting yourself in a situation where you know that you might actually get seduced, right, to waver off the behavior. So you actually nip that in the bud, and you actually say, this potentially can happen. And because you've nipped it in the bud, let me give you an example would be someone that's, drinking Coke, right? That likes to drink Coca-Cola, right? Or any soft drink that's loaded with sugar. What you do is your implementation intention is, hey, listen, I know it ain't right for me to have drinks in the fridge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually replace that with having water in there, right? And that's going to mean that I've already, prepared. My intention is that I won't be drinking Coke and that I've actually got water in there to replace it. Other examples of how you can create an environment for success is to use enablers. And I'm going to mention it here because they're one of my sponsors, and that is VPA campaign agent, and I adore their product. I mean, I just wish that all the time I worked at News Corp, I had something like this to actually help agents to get VPA. And that is what it does is it takes the friction out of advertising because the owner doesn't have to put their hand in their pocket. Campaign agent, it's called. Seth Watts and his team in Melbourne have got it. So you can sit there in front of a client and say, by the way, I actually think this is the best thing for you to sell your property, and it's going to be an investment of $5,000, but I don't need the money from you because it's actually going to come out of the sale, right? I mean, I wish that was sort of available at my time, right? But there's examples of things that allow you to achieve goals without having too much friction, because friction is, hey, I need your money. I need you, I've got to get your money off you. That's what I mean by that. Couple of other things in creating an environment. May I suggest, guys and girls, that you've got all apps turned off when you're prospecting. May I suggest that you maybe even don't go to your inbox or look at social media, before you start prospecting. There's another example of creating an environment for success. I'm also going to tell you, guys and girls, that don't be one of these people that just lives off positive thinking. You need to know what are the things that are going to get in the way, that are going to come in, and you actually factor those in. Those of you don't know here, but one of the things I do is I've got 6 bottles of water sitting in my study every morning because I have to drink those 6 bottles before I go to sleep. So I've created an environment for hydration. I realize it's important. It was something that I was lacking. So what I've done is I actually have 6 bottles. Why? Because you can measure them. Why? Because it's easy to pick it up, right? I don't have to go looking for it, right? So gang, I hope you're getting the drift that, hey, you might have a goal, you might be motivated, but I'm telling you, willpower is an overrated strategy. Why do you think in all the research of people that gave up heroin, and that's not a great track record, right? It's not a great track record of people that get on that drug, people that gave up heroin. Why do you think when they studied these people, they realized that they had 2 things in common? They had an environment, which meant there was no heroin in the house. There was no heroin nearby. And the second thing that they had, guys and girls, they had a reference group. They had a group of people that actually were not heroin users. They were people that were healthy, that were going to work. And what happens is people end up becoming like the people around them. And if you want to have a look at what your brain thinks like, yes, David goes, here he goes. You want to look at how your brain goes, have a look at the people that text you, right? The 4 or 5 regular texters are the people that are going to shape your mind. You want to become a dickhead, you hang around with 4 dickheads. That's the strategy. Do you understand that? Do you understand that? You become who you hang out with. Get it? Yes, rolling your eyes at me. At the end of the day, you hang around with flies, you become what's that saying? Guys and girls. Hey, Lisa, good to see you as well. And I've got to tell you, Lisa talks about it, walking, right? So she's got her thing there. So a couple of other things I'm going to share with you. Another strategy that I have, and it's called set yourself markers. Write that down. Set yourself markers. So for instance, let's pick Bikram because I did a Bikram class tonight. I simply know that at some point in the Bikram class, and I've got to tell you, it is one of the hardest things I have ever done, right? One of the hardest things I've ever done, right? It's not harder than chemo, but it is up there as one of the most mentally and physically draining things. Even after 30 minutes, you think to yourself, shit, there's another 1 hour to go. It's 90 minutes in 40 degrees. And I'm trying to do Bikram yoga every second day. I'm trying to do 15 sessions. Why? Because Joe Rogan said he was going to do it, and I don't think he did it. He set a goal with his mates to do 15 sessions in 30 days. And after I heard him on the podcast, I thought to myself, I'm going to give it a crack. So I clearly know there comes a point of time at around the 45-minute mark where I'm thinking to myself, this is like really, really, really unbearable. So I've got a marker, and the marker says this: the mind always fails before the body, Tom. That affirmation, I'll say it again, Tom, the mind always fails before the body. So even though the thought has come into my head and I'm thinking to myself, another hour and 15, this is unbearable, I can't do it, I actually repeat that affirmation, and what it does, it reminds me that the body can survive anything. It's the mind that's going to screw you. So, gang, I'm going to finish off this rant, and I'm going to tell you that a lot of the content I've shared with you today comes out of literature from behavioral psychologists. Change anything. Steve Georgiakis has said he wants you to say something. What do you want to say? Tough times don't last, but tough people do? Yes, but let me tell you, you'll be a far tougher person if you play a game that you're going to win. Set the game that you're going to win, Alex. Because if you go out there and you just rely on hitting and hitting and hitting, at some point you're going to say, hey, this is too much. This is a brick wall. And what I'm talking about is playing a game you're going to win. That's what this is all about, guys and girls. Playing a game that you're going to win. And my final things to you is, by the way, one of the smartest things I ever do, listen to this carefully. I'm going to finish on this. You know, I do a lot of PowerPoint presentations. I mean, between webinars and between meetings and between, now that we've got these virtual webinars, I'm doing, hundreds of presentations. So what I do is I procrastinate sometimes. So what I do is I'll go to a cafe and I won't take a battery charger on my MacBook. And then what I'll do is I'll muck around with creating slides. And then what happens is, because I know that my battery is going to run out after like 90 minutes, it forces me to finish the presentation because I've got a deadline. And I know that if I've got a charger, I can drag it off and it might take like all day. So what I do is I create this environment where I've actually got the computer there. It's going to run out of charge. I've got no choice but to get this thing done and finished. There's another example of what I'm talking about. Playing games in your head that are going to help you get stuff done. Guys and girls, I'm going to let you know that this is the end of the rant. And what I'm going to do is also let you know we have got a great session tomorrow, 10 o'clock. Real Estate Gym members are getting new scripts, new dialogues that don't make you sound like a robot, but get results. And I'm going to be giving you them 8 new pieces of dialogue to help when you're sitting there in front of a vendor, when a buyer says to you, listen, but we can only go to this price, right? When they're lowballing, I'm going to go through a little bit of that dialogue and language, guys and girls. Leilani, his name's Alex. So those of you that are my Real Estate Gym members, we are at day 20 of the boot camp, And by the way, you know that if you aren't a Real Estate Gym member and you join, you actually get the first 5 years content as part of your Real Estate Gym. And then you get the next 12 months with me in your corner every step of the way. Because guys and girls, I've got to tell you, it ain't easy doing it on your own. It's possible, but play a game that you're going to win. Get a coach, but get one who's listed. Get one who's sold. Get one who's had skin in the game and owned an office. Because as I say, before you get any advice of anyone, might sound nice and fluffy, but ask yourself, have they done this?